joined by Scott McNutt, who wrote our Specialty Papers report. Hi, Scott. How are you doing?
Eve, I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
So glad to hear it. So we're here to chat about specialty papers today. Why is this interesting and important?
Well, I've been a specialty papers person for most of my life, and this is why I find it interesting. Is that there's so many aspects that really impact our daily lives. So things like the pharmaceutical inserts, that's really important information. Uh, E-commerce and the labels for your Amazon package that's on your front desk, all that wouldn't happen for specialty papers, and the list goes on and on. So photographic papers for capturing memories that pass it down for generations. Helping prepare our food, package things, protect things as they're being packaged and sent, secure financial information, currency. So there's so many aspects of it, and all of it's kind of in transition. So to me, it's really exciting and was fun to write this report. And I'm looking forward to hearing feedback from people that read it.
You mentioned that this market's in transition. Can you explain a little bit what you mean there?
So there's a couple of things that are important in every one of these, and they're all a little bit different because technology continues to advance. And
Hmm.
so for things like security papers, there is new technology to help prevent counterfeiting. And we can't tell all the details of that because that's the proprietary information, but that continues to advance. In the areas of packaging, there's much concern about the end of the life of the product. What happens to it when you're done with it? So we want more and more to recycle and to compost those packages. So that's a very big change for a number of those packages. In packaging, there's also what we call active or smart packaging, where it does more than just contain the goods. It actually protects it or notifies you if the package has been compromised in some way. So, virtually every product is undergoing some kind of technological transformation.
Absolutely. And I suppose it'd be great to sort of understand the key trends that are influencing this market a little bit. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the number one trend, it's kind of like an umbrella over all of specialty papers, is that of sustainability. The
Mm-hmm.
definitions may differ depending on regions and cultural norms, but in general, we want to use natural materials as much as possible, and we want to recover them at the end of the product cycle, and so can be recycled into a new package or composted so that they wind up enriching the soil so we have better crops. So that's the number one kind of thing. And so um, EPR, extended producer responsibility, is driving some of that regulation. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But that is one of the key trends, is the circularity of packaging going back to the paper mill for a future product. Maybe not the same one, but another product. The other thing is a what I call the film to paper transitions. This is a movement where consumers are trying to get away from plastic packaging that can't be recycled. Obviously, film does a great job on packaging some things, but for many things, it doesn't have to be a non-recyclable plastic structure. So many companies are working on the solutions for paper structures that can perform like film. So they have the barrier properties and sealing and graphics and all those things. And at the end of their life, they can be recycled, composted, or both. So that's another key trend that's important. The materials that help support that are part of that transition. So there's going to be new kinds of materials being used. Many of these are going to be bio-based or nature-inspired materials so that it's more circular. We're not using synthetic materials or petroleum-based materials necessarily. We're trying to make as much bio based content as possible and more recycled content going back into the packaging. So those are important features. Another big trend is new technology as it relates to the manufacture of the paper itself. So things like the control systems, more advanced, and the use of AI, artificial intelligence. It's not only in the control systems, but also in things like graphic design, package design, and almost every element of the entire business transaction. So that's another key player. I don't think we've really thought about all of the ways that AI can be used, but many companies are exploring it and finding ways to be far more efficient. Um, and so the last item I would say is a new type of material is called bioplastic. So this is a whole family of products that are fairly new that are going to be incorporated onto paper, either extruded or laminated. And these are materials like PHA, PHB, PLA. And the advantage with these is they're readily compostable,
Mm.
whereas their petroleum-based film counterparts are not. When you incorporate these materials into paper, the structure then can be composted. So that's another key trend for packaging for specialty papers.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some technical innovations that we can expect to see in this market over the next few years?
Yeah, so to help support the film to paper transition, what we're finding is that the paper mills are going to have to create a much different kind of paper. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is that it's designed to put either a barrier coating on or one of these biopolymers, and the paper has to be different in
Mhm.
order to support that. So things like the smoothness and the density and the porosity of the paper is going to have to be more like film to get those kinds of properties than paper normally is. Paper is
Mhm.
normally porous, and so that is an expectation. And then some paper mills may be actually putting some barrier coatings on, one or more barrier coatings on at the mill, and then sending it out to the converter for
Mhm.
subsequent barrier coating. So we have multifunctional kinds of applications. I mentioned the bio-based materials. There's a huge number of companies that are working on innovation in this space involving all kinds of natural materials. So things like kelp,
Mhm.
things like seashells, um, um, casein, natural proteins. This is it's an endless list. Even things like making paper from leaves. So there's a lot of innovation in this space that's just really exciting. Another thing is the use of non-wood fibers. So for many, many years, um, wood was used to make the wood chips, and they were cooked in a sulfide or sulfate process to make the pulp. Um, Now, folks are looking at materials like canaf, bamboo, miscanthus grass, and they're making paper and molded fiber objects out of these sustainable crops that grow much faster. They're far more efficient and they also can be done in a much smaller space. So it'll be interesting to see all of the different products that are going to be made out of non-wood fibers. Um, I mentioned a little bit about active packaging. So specifically, what this is materials that would change or maintain the space inside where the food package is. So things like oxygen scavengers to help keep the food fresh, um, and also indicators that might tell you that the oxygen level has changed or there's evidence of spoilage or those kind of things, so that as you look at the package, you know this one's not right for me.
Mhm.
Something has happened to it. So a lot of innovation in that space so that the consumer really understands the quality of the product and it's fit for use.
You mentioned kelp and seaweed and sort of changing the raw material that these papers are made out of. Do you think materials like that are scalable, or do you think they're more of a faddy in between sort of raw
That,
wood input to something else?
great question, because these things are just new to the
Mhm.
innovation space and new to commercialization. So, um, when they can be done in a sustainable way, and that's the key thing, just like fish farming. We go back 20, 30
Mhm.
years, no one farmed fish. And now it's a cultural stable many places. So they've advanced the science to know how to do fish farming. Similarly, it will be a similar kind of structure, I think, where coastal areas will create an environment that's perfect for the growth of seaweed and kelp and these kinds of things,
Mhm.
and be able to harvest it sustainably and keep it going. So I'm optimistic that the science is there and that there's enough people that are interested in it, and there's the economics ultimately is what's going to
Mhm.
dictate this, because many ideas are can work, will work, but it may be that the economics is what makes them fall out of favor, or maybe not take off as well.
You mentioned regulations very briefly, sort of when we first started chatting. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the impact of those on this particular market.
Yeah, so um, especially as it relates to packaging. Um, I've mentioned extended producer responsibility, or EPR.
Mhm.
That notion, that concept is advanced beyond just a discussion point. It's
Mm.
now becoming an actual regulation in many areas of the world. In Europe, especially, they have the PPWR, which
Yeah.
is the Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation. This is a very specific and effective way of defining what the package needs to be, how it's made, and how it can be designed, utilized, recovered,
Mhm.
collected, and then turned into some other product. Maybe not necessarily the one it came from, but recycled or
Mhm.
composted. And if in the event that the folks that make this type of packaging are not able to meet all those requirements, there will be a fee associated with it. And if that fee structure comes to be onerous for the manufacturer, then they're going to have to change their package design to meet the requirements. So, again, the folks that make these have hundreds of packages. Some of them are already in compliance, have been all along. Some new ones are being developed to be compliant. But at some point, more and more packaging is going to be meet all the requirements so that there's not the fee. Now, the fees that are collected are helpful in paying for the infrastructure for collection and sorting, and that whole system that in some places like North America, it's not that great in all regions. And so there is a requirement for expenditure, capital investment in collection, sorting, and that kind of thing. And the fees from the extended producer responsibility will help uh, create that system so that it's widespread, everyone can get to it, it's convenient, and that kind of thing. So that's probably the number one area that affects the packaging aspect. And so as that expands, we see it growing in the U.S. States are adopting it one by one. Canada, a number of countries are already on board. We believe this is going to be a worldwide trend. I don't know how long it will take before everyone's there. The challenge is not everybody's doing it the same. So if you're a global
Mhm.
company and you have to apply by or be in compliance with all of these regulations worldwide, you have some challenges on your
Mhm.
hands. So you have to maybe go by the strictest one and then hope that that's going to meet the requirements for everyone everywhere. So um, this affects raw material utilizations, which ones you use, the amount of recycle that's in your package, the way you design the package, and could be as even includes things like adhesives and inks and all those things, so that the end package in its totality can meet the requirements. So that's the really big thing I think that many people are still trying to understand and figure out the implications for it.
In this market where we're sort of seeing quite a lot of trends that are making perhaps the marketplace a little bit more difficult to work within, which areas of this market are seeing the biggest levels of growth or are growing the quickest?
So there, I'll give you two answers. So there, part of it is
Mm.
geographically. So
Mhm.
depending on where you are in the world, the answer is much different. And in the report, I was surprised in the research that I did. There's a big difference in what grades are growing and by how much. So the area that has the greatest growth for a variety of these grades, and in fact, in some cases, almost all of the categories we had growth is India and China.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of this has to do with demographics, rising median incomes, and the expansion of things like e-commerce, um, fast food restaurants. So the developing nature of those countries and the economies that are growing support those kinds of things. So those two regions have double to triple the growth rate of many other parts of the world that are more mature with their economies. So the second part of that answer is the grades, the specific
Mm.
paper grades that are going to be seeing the most growth. Um, so the top three that are in the report are machine glazed papers, otherwise known as MG papers, and those are used for a wide variety of things: food packaging, fast food restaurant kinds of grades, and they're so adjustable and adaptable. They can be coated, laminated. It turns into all kinds of packaging, but they're very, very versatile. So that's the number one grade for growth, which is great for the people that make that. Secondly, is thermal papers. So a lot of this winds up in label applications. And because e-commerce and has changed the landscape of how people buy things, we don't necessarily go to a store like we used to and buy it off the rack. We go onto our phone or laptop and order
Mhm.
things, and it shows up in a box. And then on that box is a thermally printed label. So more and more, thermal papers is a significant market. And lastly is coated one-side packaging. And so these are grades that are used for consumer goods that are things like pharmaceuticals, health and beauty. So consistent with rising median income. So these are things that maybe not everybody used 5, 10 years ago,
Mhm.
especially in India and China. But as those economies develop, more and more of that packaging is stows up on store shelves, and a lot of this is you can either buy it through e-commerce, but it comes in that coated package, and that
Mhm.
allows the manufacturer to put their own brand graphics on it, communicate all kinds of things. And so that's also a very high growth grade, is the coated one side packaging grades.
Well, that's great, Scott. Thank you ever so much for that. The Future of Specialty Papers is available to buy now. And again, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. It's such an interesting topic to talk about.
Eve, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.